And here we are on a Friday evening, and we are back. We're back in our headquarters, back in our den, back in our peaceful surroundings, except with nothing peaceful to talk about. We, of course, as you know, spent the last several days in East Palestine, where the terrible, catastrophic explosion took place several weeks ago on that railroad line that released toxic chemicals, causing great damage to the community, physical damage, mental damage, economic damage, and damage of confidence, maybe I wouldn't say greater than any other, but yes, and confidence in being embraced by all of America, particularly by the strange behavior, utterly strange behavior of the president and the completely bizarre Secretary of Transportation in some of the oddest behavior ever evinced by American executives about their fellow citizens. We are going to give you some breaking news, I believe. Some of you may have had this from earlier, but I think it's now been confirmed. And that is the report on the cause of the train crash. Is that correct?
That is correct. We'll need a couple minutes to
we'll need a couple of minutes to get it. I'm going to give you some caveats beforehand, which is this is the first explanation of the cause of it. And when I say first explanation of the cause of it, what I mean by that is there may be others that come along.
Okay.
There may be other causes that come along later. I'm not being unnecessarily cynical. I'm being extremely realistic. Has been the correct one. Not always. So let's take this one as a first offering of what happened and factor in human mistake, how quickly it's been compiled as of necessity because of the pressure of and necessary pressure of public opinion. All the factors that have surrounded this that have made it, I don't know that this is a suspicious situation, but they sure as heck treat it like it is. So they surround it within, what did they say when they falsely accused us of being Russian agents? Earmarks of Russian disinformation. This has earmarks of lying all over it. Nobody shows up. People drop out. People don't come. Buttigieg takes weeks. Buttigieg lies and says this happens 1,000 times a year. If it happened 1,000 times a year, why does he not know what the hell to do about it? It's obvious they didn't have a playbook for this. If it happens 1,000 times a year, this thing goes down like this. Boom, boom. No problem. So we got lots of issues here. And I have my own suspicion, which may turn out to be totally wrong, and I'm not willing to make it a firm one. My suspicion is it may not be anything very sinister, other than they made it like that. Does that make any sense to you? Even if this had been handled perfectly, which boy it wasn't, at this stage of a horrible catastrophe like that, we still would not know the actual, real 100%, we can be sure, to our graves cause. They tend to, facts come along later. They tend to change. They tend to, new things get found out. New witnesses come forward. Other discoveries are made in the laboratory. Whatever. If and when that happens with this, it'll be attributed to some kind of sneakiness or because of the way in which it was handled. I had a rule. I followed it on 9/11. I followed it in the many, many other emergencies that I handled, and I wrote it in my book. Tell the truth. And when you don't know it, tell the truth. In other words, tell what you know. If it's substantial enough to be considered at all. Maybe even if it isn't, tell it and explain that it isn't. I'm not so sure about that because sometimes that can engender false uh, suggestions right from the beginning, and people who maybe aren't as quick or more prone to sinister explanations stick with it. But I would say to the emergency manager, transparency, which is what they all talk about and never do anymore. Transparency is the biggest contradiction, except for truthfulness, that emerges from this administration. They are the complete opposite of transparent. They lie and they hide. Transparency means, in this situation, I come to the emergency. I'm the head of it. I'm getting briefed. I get all my facts together for my first initial impression of how we're going to act immediately. Yeah, I got to make some guesses at that point because I don't have all the facts. But based on the facts that I do have, I go with that set of facts, and then I extrapolate to what I think may be the case. And then once I do that, so I've done my duty and I've got the show rolling and we're not holding anything else, then I brief the public. And when I brief you, and I often did this when I was the mayor and under circumstances not even as compelling as September 11, I would tell you what I knew, but I would tell you that to you with a warning, and I don't believe I ever got in trouble for this. I said, look, what I'm telling you now may turn out not to be true tomorrow. I know you're probably going to think I lied to you, but I didn't. Like if I didn't tell you, I'd be lying to you. I'm going to tell it to you because I know it now. Now, it could be tomorrow that the witness who told my police officer this, or my firefighter, or even the press, may come back and say, no, I was wrong. It wasn't like that. And of course, I've done this many times before I was mayor and when I was just running it as a U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney, whatever. I would change the hypothesis based on the facts. But when I do that with you, you might start thinking we're fooling around. But I'm trying to teach you this from the beginning because do not get angry at all of us and think we're a bunch of incompetents because the facts change from day one in an emergency. I'll tell you what happened from day one of the emergency. Facts change. Observations change. Observations get better. People remember more. People realize that from the shock of what they underwent, they imagined more than actually happened, or they forgot things that happened, or people come forward that you didn't have originally who were too frightened. All of that happens, so the day one tale is never true, and if it is true, it's never, of course, complete. So the emergency manager has to be skilled in not letting that phenomenon, which is a natural part of an emergency, break down the confidence between him, her, and the public that relies on you for facts. My gosh, what I just explained now is so far from what these clowns do in destroying public confidence in how to deal with an emergency that it makes me want to cry. I mean, we worked hard at this. We worked hard at trying to keep confidence. When facts change, and it just absolutely legitimately, I used to always worry, and I talk to my people about how are we going to explain this so they don't lose confidence in us. And we always stayed with the same thing. We're just going to tell the truth. And we found after a few years, it worked. It worked. So we'll get this first explanation. We'll go over it. I'll give you my assessment of how close to, if not necessarily the truth, is it in the ballpark? let's see if we can remember a little of what happened here. This was a gigantic train. It had a substantial amount, so much that it had a substantial amount of toxic cars. I don't think it went over the limit, nor do I think it violated the rules for the placement of the cars. On neither of those two things am I absolutely certain, but on both of them I am certain, not to the extent that it was material, meaning there are always minor. You get into an accident and your fender is messed up when you go into the accident. Of course, it has nothing to do with the accident, but your fender is messed up. So when I say material, I mean things that were materially wrong that applied to the accident. Or are we allowed to ask, was it intended? Was this a purposeful act? Of course, we're allowed to ask it. We used to be in America. I don't know now that we've on our transition of fascism under Biden, if we are. But of course, we're entitled to ask it. I'll give you the answer right now. There's no indication that it is. I think the failure to leave it open as a possibility at this early stage will create more suspicion than it allays, because many people, no matter what, will entertain that possibility. And maybe if it isn't, and it can be, maybe that should be disproved as much as possible so that it dispels that. But constantly setting it aside and making it politically incorrect to say it just gives it a lot more fuel than the facts are giving it. So we'll get the explanation, and then we'll see what else we've got going. We'll come back to that in a minute, unless Ted is ready.
Mayor, we have some new information this evening. The operators of the Norfolk Southern train carrying hazardous chemicals near East Palestine, Ohio, earlier this month tried to actually stop the train after a wheel bearing overheated.
That was before the accident took place.
Yes, and this is according to the NTSB.
And is that it? I mean, is there more to it than that?
There is. So by the time an alarm rang to alert the crew of the danger, the bearing was already so compromised that it failed as the train was still coming to a stop, officials said, a revelation that raised questions about whether Norfolk Southern's safety sensors and procedures were sufficient to prevent a catastrophic failure. Roller bearings fail, but it's absolutely critical for problems to be identified and addressed early, so these aren't run until failure, said NTSB Chair Jennifer Hamady at a press conference. This is a preliminary report by the NTSB.
I understand that.
And this preliminary report stopped short of declaring a conclusive cause of the derailment. So it's very important. So this is the newest information we have, and it may give us more, lead us into the right direction as to the cause, but it is not conclusive. So it is important that we say that. But the report, along with additional details that I know we've heard and others have discussed, give us now the most complete picture, while still incomplete, the best picture of what may have.
Well, I mean, there may be much more to it than that, but if that's all they released today, it's pretty pathetic in terms of the number of facts that have been able to be gleaned and put forward with this amount of time. I mean, if what they're telling us that there was a problem with a bearing and the bearing wasn't working right and they hadn't prepared the correct one, that's all well and good, but pretty hard to go from there to a catastrophic. There are a couple of other things happened in between that and one of the major explosions of the century so far. So I have to conclude either they're working at the slowest pace they ever did, or they have other information they're holding back. And this is exactly what they shouldn't be doing. This is exactly what creates the conspiracy theories, where people who are knowledgeable about this and who have done this in the past say to themselves, my goodness, I mean, 5 days ago, we would have had that. This is a nothing in terms of revelation. This revelation should have taken place a day after or two. We should now be at the stage of analyzing how much of an impact did that have? What was the connection between that and the fire starting? What cars was it in? What security was there that was set up to reverse something like that, particularly with regard to the cars that could create catastrophic injury? I mean, after all, this could have happened in the middle of Chicago, right? So this is one of those situations where a government agency is fostering the process of building problems for itself in a situation where they have already been accursed by horrible handling by the chief executive and the number two chief executive, Buttigieg and Biden, who's yet to visit there, although he spent a lot of time saying and doing things in Ukraine that we don't even quite understand. I mean, we don't know what we're doing with Ukraine. Are we in a war? Are we in a war? How far are we going to go? Is this a commitment to another long-term war? Is it a commitment without any limits on it as he wants it, or will he be willing to accept limits set by Republicans? Is he willing in the Ukraine to have an inspector general examine the cash going to a country that, without any insult to its people, instead sympathy to its people, is one of the most corrupt in the world, and one of the most corrupt in the world in close consultation with the Democratic Party of the United States? Have there been proper monitors put in place to prevent that kind of corruption so that people do not become wealthy from this war, as has happened in Ukraine and in the United States before? So we'll see if we can get more on this. We'll see if we can get more on this as we move along. So now that we're on the subject of Ukraine, let's talk about it a bit, because I guess the fact that we're in a second year without result is surprising, because everyone thought the result would now be Russia won and Ukraine nothing. I don't think anyone thought that Russia would take over all of Ukraine in 1 year. I think everyone thought that the Russian army, being the second strongest in the world, which it is not, by the way, would have been able to take the relatively limited amount of land that it seeks, the land bridge, and hold it. Well, they haven't been able to do that, nor have they been able to take any of the rest of Ukraine. Have they been able to inflict catastrophic damage, more than the U.S. incurred in both Afghanistan and Iraq? Yes. 100 million people dead, Ukrainians. Have they sustained similar damage, totally unexpected, of somewhere around that number, dead, of invading soldiers? Yes. This has been the second biggest war on the European continent. Well, I don't know about World War II. So if you look at the last three wars on the European continent, this is the third biggest, I'd put it that way. That I'm sure of. It's only second to World War I and World War II, or World War II and World War I. Might be bigger than World War II. I don't think so. If it keeps, who knows? And there is no apparent end game. There is an apparent end game, but it's unacceptable to both sides. The end game for Russia is give us the land bridge. They'd like Kharkiv to Crimea, and what here I'll show you a picture of land, of what their desire is, because this you should know this. This is in fact This is, in fact, what this whole war is over, really. This whole war is over the land bridge from Russia to Crimea, which is a Russian port, even though it's in Ukraine. Remember, Ukraine was part of Russia. They held a great deal of their navy there, including many of their best submarines. They built them there, not only held them there.
Thanks for joining us. America's Mayor Live with America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani, live from New York City after a busy few days in East Palestine, Ohio, where the mayor shared his experience.
If we take a look at this, and this is before the annexations, right? We can see, just so it's clear, here's Russia. Here's Russia, right up here on the tip of Ukraine. Here's Russia with the Sea of Azov separating it from Crimea. Here's a bit of a land bridge here between the Russian Federation and Crimea that they have been able to annex free of Ukraine. But what they would like to have is all the land starting from here, Luhansk, which they virtually control now. Up here is Kharkiv. They do not control that. They would like to control that. But this would give them a land bridge to Crimea right here. See, right here, along with this. Crimea is now in their possession and is a major port. And it used to be the center of their submarine fleet. They want Crimea back. As a bare minimum, they want this land bridge. Okay? Now, right now, they have portions of it, and portions of it are interrupted by challenges by the much more effective Ukrainian army than we realized, and sporadic victories and losses of territory. So it's a land bridge that is pockmarked with Ukrainian invasion. This, by the way, is the radio station I am on in St. Louis, a syndicate I'm on in St. Louis, in case you want to know what am I advertising. I'm on there every week, 5 days a week. You can get me. And my statement, strike it up as mine, and no one else's, but I think many would support it, is there's no way at this point that Russia gives up this war with these losses without that land bridge and the retention of the land they've already taken. They're not giving back the land they took, and they're not giving back the land bridge which they believe they have taken. That would be a matter of dispute. Would they give up their pretensions or their desire for the rest of the country? I don't know that. My surmise is yes. Now let's go to the Ukrainian point of view. If Russia were to say, look, we effectively control half of that right now. In some ways, we control all of it when we want to. even though not legally and jurisdictionally. What's the point in not giving us that and we end the war? No more attacks. We have, if you can see this, we have this here. You have the rest of it. We leave you alone. You leave us alone. And by the way, you don't join NATO, because we don't want no NATO on our border. Well, in some ways, they have a little bit of NATO on their border already, but not Ukraine NATO. And as we have found out, not only Ukraine is a major source of agriculture and food for Russia, has been for in history, but Ukraine is a incredible, unbelievable fighting force, isn't it? At least when they're fighting for their lives, they sure are. Wow. I mean, we didn't necessarily pick the wrong side in that situation, did we? Not as if America's got to do the fighting for them. In fact, one wonders, would they have done better if they weren't dealing with feckless Joe, who every time he promises something, he doesn't deliver it. You know those tanks they were talking about? He wasn't going to deliver the tanks until the Germans delivered their tanks. The Germans weren't going to deliver their tanks until he delivered his tanks. Well, the Germans have delivered their tanks. Bad Germans have delivered their tanks. And good Americans now are saying they may never deliver their tanks. Do you realize what a liar he is? He lies to his enemies. He lies to people that are neutral. He lies to his friends, and he lies to his fellow crooks. This guy'd have been whacked in the mafia. I'm telling you, they'd have whacked him. That they don't take that last part. I mean, you can lie to the enemy. You can't lie to each other. I mean, you're going to get your tanks. You're going to get your tanks. You're going to get your tanks. Then all of a sudden, there's a little word at the end. You're going to get your tanks. You're going to get your tanks. You're going to get your tanks. Next year. You're going to get your tanks. You're going to get your tanks. Next year. Can I have my ice cream, please? American politics. Beginning to heat up, huh? Got to see, and I mean this in the best possible sense. You got to see Trump's trip to East Palestine as a political trip. Not only that, but for the fact that the media hates him with a hatred that is like makes you want to turn your stomach, because it tells you how corrupt they are. It tells you nothing about him. I mean, he's got bad qualities. We all have bad qualities. You want to exaggerate his, fine. You want to dislike his more than somebody else's, fine. But the level of treatment by this media is a reflection on how extraordinarily corrupt and sick they are. What he did in East Palestine was just sheer brilliance. It was sheer brilliance. And of course, it was made possible by having an opponent that's a total moron. Why does Dopeface not get up one morning in 4 weeks and travel to East Palestine and look around and go up to the people like I did and say, I'm sorry? What can I do to help? Any advice? Gee, I went through this. This is what I did. I kept my children out of town for a while. One lady said she has her children out of town. She comes back to the house 3-4 times a week just to check on each time it's worse, but she doesn't want to stay there all the time. It doesn't want to bring kids there, so the kids are with relatives, I think. I did that with my kids. I was the mayor then. I brought them back after about a week. My wife took them out to New Jersey and took care of them. And And when it was safe to come back, they did. I had several concerns. One was, of course, not just attack at that point, but would there be, I mean, I was being advised of things that could happen, that my mind was filled with horror movies, which required, remember on a Friday night after September 11th, I have a whole weekend to get better, don't worry. I remember leaving at 2:00 in the morning, walking out of Gracie Mansion on September 14. Just gone through a briefing on chemical weapons because the contrary mayor that New York had was convinced that the next attack would be chemical because the FBI predicted that it wouldn't. This was back in 2001. I was like that. I said, what's the next? I had the FBI come in on a Wednesday, the day after, Thursday. Give me a briefing on the next possible attack. Oh, another physical attack. 24 hours had gone by for another physical attack. I had studied, and Bernie had studied Islamic terrorists and bin Laden a lot more than they did. Bunch of bullshit artists. Which is why we made all the mistakes we made. I don't know why people just don't read instead of make believe they read. They weren't going to follow up with the same thing they did before. It isn't the way they operate. It's the way they operated for 1,400 years. Idiots. So Bernie and I said, let's bring together our group. We had a group of experts on chemical and biological weapons, including from Bush's government. And they all came to Gracie Mansion. We have a basement there. Press didn't see them. They didn't get there until 10 o'clock at night. They all went into the basement, a lot of doctors, a couple of laureates, and we had a 3-hour session, maybe 4, on everything that could happen, all the different attacks that could occur, and then what we would do and how we would deal with it and what our plan would be and then we let the experts go, and then the city people who would have responsibility for all these terrible parade of horribles that were given to us went through their responsibilities. And when we were finished, we realized Bernie and I finished, and Bernie and Tom Von Essen and Richie Shearer were in charge, and we were in charge of different segments of it. And Bernie and I had the smallpox segment of it, and Richie and Tom, Richie Shearer and Tom dealt with the anthrax, which turned out to be what happened. Can't believe how thankful I was. We did that. 3 weeks later, we put in operation what we had practiced 3 weeks earlier. People used to say, how come you must have known about that in advance? You know, the conspiracy theorists, I bet they let you know about that in advance. You know, you can't win, right? If you don't anticipate it, you're a stupid dope that doesn't plan. If you do, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're a conspiracy participant. But in any event, we walked out Gracie Mansion. I said, Bernie, let's take a little walk, please. And Gracie Mansion has a beautiful lawn going out to the East River, and it was a nice night. They all were that. Then I said, Bernie, I don't know. We went through 4 days. We almost got killed. We got ourselves out. I could tell you weren't frightened when we went through that. I got to tell you, I'm not acting like a big guy, but I wasn't. I was after, but I'm not now. I wasn't then. I don't like what I just heard, though. I think they just told us we don't have a solution to smallpox. I think they just told us we put them on. We evacuated Randall's Island, and we put them on Randall's Island, and then we send people over in hazmat suits and get their bodies and bury them. Did I just hear that? He said, well, yeah, we got to find a way around that. I said, well, I know we do, but wow. I think that might have been the one that put me in the, what am I going to do about it? Do you know when we hit anthrax, I was relieved. I said, I know what to do. But the minute Tom Brokaw called me and he said he thought it was anthrax, I said, okay, don't worry, Tom. He said, what? I said, don't worry, Tom. 3 weeks earlier, we had just planned it out. And he called me and said, Mayor or Rudy, I think we have smallpox. I might have said, gee, you know, Bloomberg and Mark Green want to be mayor. Maybe we should turn it. No, I wouldn't have done that. But you've got to stay on top of all these things nowadays for your people. And that's why it's important to elect intelligent, really smart, and very well-motivated people. It's a different time. It's hard to hold some of these jobs without extraordinary challenges. And you got to pick people who you think are capable of extraordinary challenges. And if you think that people capable of extraordinary challenges are all perfect, you got to start making choices. I guess I don't want to make a campaign pitch for Trump, and I'm sure there are others out there that will challenge him, that make their point and whatever, but at least he proved he's got it. He doesn't shake. The hands don't go. He doesn't fall going down the steps, you know? Well, Ted, where are we? Any more information? And how are our people tonight? All of our people.
Big audience this evening, Mayor. A lot of people in the comments section talking about how special it was that you did, in fact, go to East Palestine.
Oh, it was for me. For me, it was it was an honor to go. I mean, to meet such great Americans who. Weren't you surprised? Well, Ted was with me every minute of the way. And Ted, weren't you surprised at how brave these people are? I mean, these are not frightened people. If anybody thinks, I mean, are there ones that get on and say how terrible it is, what happened to them? Of course, they mean that, but that doesn't mean they're not capable of handling it. These are tough people.
And good people, by all accounts, honest, and the type of people that, you know, if you were to break down in their hometown, they'd be there to help you, and they'd be there probably with a hot meal and directions to the gas station. Probably they would bring the gas to you.
Movies. Then you meet the girl you like Ted. You meet the girl you like one of the Hallmark Hall of Fame Christmas movies. I can see it now. Ted is headed home to Michigan. He finished his work with Giuliani Communications. We did a great Christmas special. He's so proud of it. He's getting all kinds of plaudits. What a great job by Ted on the Christmas special. He's headed home to his family, and his beautiful car, for no earthly reason, breaks down completely right outside of East Palestine. And he's brought into, what was the name of the tire place we went to last night? Will you get it for us?
That's right. Last night we were with, the owner was Harry Jones.
Well, Harry, he's brought into Harry's place.
Yes.
Harry says, well, I don't have all the things that you need, but I can pull them together. And Ted says, it's 2 days. It's a day before Christmas Eve, and I've got to be in Michigan. And Ted lives on the
Tom's Tires.
Tom Tires. And
Harry is the owner.
Ted lives in the Antarctic portion of Michigan.
I'm from the Upper Peninsula, right on Lake Superior.
As I said, the
Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Houghton, Lake Superior.
And he has to get there because Christmas comes that's Santa's first stop. I mean, it's like really near the top, and he comes flying over, and he's usually a little quick then because he knows he's got a long night ahead of him. So if Ted's not there, he gets cold. So Ted knew he had to get there quickly. But they said to him, Ted, you're going to have to stay over one day. Still gave him a chance to make it.
People want to make sure you take care of that voice, Mayor. A lot of people.
They felt he could make it. So Ted got a room.
Oh, we're still.
And the next morning he gets up for breakfast, and there's this very, very lovely waitress who's taking care of him. And Ted, this little special thing happens, you know?
The moment where they lock eyes.
The cute little waitress. so beautiful and so cute. And she looks at Ted, and Ted looks so handsome and so happy because Christmas is coming, and he did so well. And they just look at each other, and she says, "Oh, what would you like?" And he says, I would like to, he was almost going to say, "I'd like you." But he says, "I would like breakfast." And then, of course, they fall in love. And before it's all over, they have Christmas with her family. They get to Michigan in time for Christmas with his family. And by the time he comes back to New York, he's married. There you go. Okay.
That's a great story. It could happen.
You want my script, Hallmark? Call Ted and me, huh?
That is a classic Hallmark movie.
And wouldn't they be a great town for it?
Absolutely. East Palestine is an all-American town.
I think they have been the town for Hallmark about 10 years ago.
I think so.
I believe so. I read that somewhere.
Interesting enough, there was a recent Netflix movie done in the region on a train derailment. It's actually very strange. And people from East Palestine were extras in the film. I'll send you some info on it. Very strange.
Let's find out who did the film.
Yeah, right? And then we need to look into that.
I mean, not that we're conspiracy theorists.
Comment below if you have information on that. But a Netflix some sort of Netflix
I know.
It's called White Noise. We're getting
I've heard it. I heard of that one too.
So let's talk about this. This Netflix it was last year. It's called White Noise. It's a 2022 film. A college professor named Jack Gladney and his family's comfortable suburban life is upended when a nearby chemical leak causes the airborne toxic event, releasing a nauseous black cloud over the region, and it forced everyone in the area to evacuate. And this takes place. I'm trying to see where it takes place.
This is a TV.
Ohio. It takes place in Ohio.
This is a TV movie now on
this is a
Netflix
movie that came out. It was released at the Venice International Film Festival
is it on
August of 2022.
It's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
Not sure I have Netflix. I have Amazon Prime.
Well, comment below if it's still available on Netflix if you know, because I wonder if this derailment causes it.
I'll watch it tonight. Once I get into these things, I like to learn everything about them. And if they got some kind of movie on it, I'll be like really a real sucker for it.
A train accident. This takes place in Ohio.
Wow. Where in Ohio? Like in the eastern part, like where we were? By the way, a great state, Ohio.
As a Michigander, I have to say, what a great I'm not.
Don't be nasty.
I
noticed you got nasty with Ohio State jerseys.
You did notice that. I couldn't help it.
Yeah, I looked at a pretty Ohio State jersey. It looked so nice. I thought,
you almost got it.
I'm a Michigan. I'm not against Michigan State, but we play Michigan State more often. So I'm a Notre Dame fan. So
Michigan and then Ohio State. I don't know if I want to tell the story about this morning.
There are no other football team other than that.
Michigan and Ohio. Ohio State's the football team in Ohio. In Michigan, there's really two big schools, two big football programs: Michigan and Michigan State.
What's Notre Dame's lifetime record against Michigan State?
Against Michigan State, so that's a regional rivalry. Let's see, Notre Dame versus Michigan State.
I mean, they have sunk in recent years. I hate to think of the recent years. I shouldn't have even asked.
Notre Dame leads the Notre Dame Michigan State rivalry 33-21-1.
Yeah, that's probably a lot of early games.
But remember, that's Michigan State. Now let's try
Michigan. Which one pays more for football players? Michigan or Michigan State?
Michigan. People would say Michigan has a much deeper donor base. Which one? Michigan State's a big.
Which one cheats more? I'm getting at.
People would say Michigan. I think
Michigan pays more because Notre Dame.
Well, now you're allowed to pay. Remember, so it's not even cheating.
Well, it depends on how you pay.
Michigan leads the series 25-17-1. Now,
what?
Michigan leads the series against Notre Dame.
By what?
25 games to 7 teams.
See, that's because they cheat.
University of Michigan got in some big trouble for basketball in the 90s, if you remember that. And then more recently, actually, Ohio State has gotten themselves into trouble. But of course, a lot of the rules are different now.
Well, which is more popular in Michigan, Michigan or Michigan State?
So that's interesting. It's, again, a big rivalry. Michigan's kind of thought of as the elite school. A lot of more of the elite crowd. Whether that's it's they consider it a better school. Where Michigan State's considered kind of the state school, still a very good school, Big Ten school.
I always thought of it as a very, very good school.
Michigan State,
Yeah,
very much so.
I mean, I
But
did.
University of Michigan, they like to carry, a little bit hoity-toity there. They'd like to think of themselves almost as like an Ivy. They have this term, the public Ivies, and the University of Michigan
in other words,
falls in
they
that.
support mutilating children.
Oh gosh, their
and,
politics are left
and,
of. That's very Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Torturing Republicans.
Ann Arbor, Michigan, may be the most liberal place.
Limbs of Republican politicians, things like that.
Yeah, Ann Arbor is not just liberal; it's dangerous. These are pro. I could get into.
Hamas.
Yeah, these are. I don't want to get into it.
No. I remember the first time I came out of government and I went to give a speech there.
University of Michigan?
No, in Michigan. I remembered all the threats
that you got.
Ooh.
So Dearborn, Michigan, again,
that was after September 11.
Yeah. So Dearborn has the largest population.
Threats and comments about how wonderful September 11 was.
Really?
Oh man, I was sick. I almost vomited looking at it.
We're in Michigan. So Dearborn has the largest population of Muslims outside of the Middle East.
Calmed down since then. Been back many times. It's gone now.
And vast majority are great people.
Yeah, the first 3 months, the first 2 or 3 years, it was very, very young. I went there anyway, though.
Yeah. Again, a vast majority.
I was back 3 years ago, and
they love America. A lot of them actually voted for Trump.
I was back 3 or 4 years ago. There's nothing left of it. It was all gone. Which gives you an idea that people can get over it. People are able to get beyond these things because they were really bad in the first couple of maybe months after.
Who?
The population around Dearborn, Michigan, was very, very bad right after September 11. Very, very radicalized. And after about a year to a year and a half, it calmed down quite a bit. I'm not sure the law enforcement emphasis on it calmed down as quickly as they calmed down, but they did.
Oh, we're getting a comment from David Beloit. David, we met last night in East Palestine. He is actually a regular viewer of our show, of our live stream. Do you remember him, David? We met him outside the gas station.
I do.
Hello, David. David, we're going to upgrade you to a moderator. If you're interested, comment below, David.
What does that mean?
On YouTube, we have such an active chat that we have a group of folks that have volunteered, and they come in every night and serve as moderators for the chat.
Oh, moderators.
So they keep out a lot of spam comments that break the rules.
I thought you said we elevated him to moderate. He's a moderator.
No, moderator. So our moderators, of course, Molly, Don. Molly's been with us from the beginning.
Yes.
Shawnette, Molly, Jeep Girl, all great. You, Scotty, all of our female moderators this evening. Not seeing any of our males, but found that interesting. But we will upgrade David.
Tell me the name of the movie. I'm looking it up.
White Noise.
White Noise. So this is about a crash and toxic spill. Both? We got both here?
White Noise. Yes, it's about a train crash and toxic spill. Takes place in Ohio, which is interesting.
White Noise movie. 2020, 94 minutes. When do you say it was done?
It was released August of 20, less than a year ago.
Oh, well, this is a different one. This is on Amazon Prime.
What's it called? White Noise?
It's all about the alt-right. Oh gosh, this is like a right-wing.
One of those fake
attack movies. Don't buy it. Forget it. So
White Noise is on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Okay. So we'll go to Netflix.
We will do something nice for our moderators in the near future. We thank you for being with us. We're 90 episodes in, so we're almost to our 100th episode. That's just 2 weeks away.
Do you know if this movie is good, or are we making a recommendation here?
Let us know if you've watched this White Noise movie. We'll have to watch it before we make any sort of recommendation. And of course, people have just made some comments about how interesting it was that this was.
I have to sign it.
Well, we'll take a look at this later. Where the fastest are on the internet. We just 10 minutes left, Mayor, and of course we came here.
We came here just within 3 minutes.
That's right.
We drove all the way from. Well, we actually drove in stages today. We started in.
I'm sending him a link. He wanted to watch. I'll send him a link.
Well, he's watching kind of late.
Yeah, but he can still catch us. We'll say hi.
Well, it's nice to have you with us, Bob, but we're sort of at the end now. But we're about to mention you. Bob is a great, great person. I'm not even going to say he's a great lawyer because everybody knows that, but everyone knows he's a great person. But we're looking now for White Link. I'm going to give it one try so I don't waste your time. But if this better be a good movie, Ted, or we're going to hold it against you.
Me?
Yes, of course. I mean,
I brought it up, but I was not giving any sort of recommendation.
Did you hear anything about it?
Just the eerie similarities. Just the eerie similarities.
Similar, or it was good? Similar and good are two different things. You know that,
I can't say anything about it being good.
Oh, we get one of those. We get one of those wishy, squishy. I can't say whether it was good. We get a wishy, squishy. But we're going to try and see if we can pull it out for you. Because I can usually tell by the description, not if it's good, but if it's right wing or left wing, crazy. Like, ooh, like that one, White Noise, about the uber alt right. I never heard of anybody who's uber alt right, except left wing kook jobs who use things like that and probably walk around in the middle of the night when nobody's looking in closets like Hunter Biden does, dressed in those uniforms, and do strange, perverted things like he does. That's what I think. So now
we're winding down here on a busy, busy evening. We got here just in time for the live stream.
I want to get you a movie for the weekend here.
White Noise.
I like it. I like it if we can both watch the same movie for the weekend, because then tomorrow, on Monday, maybe we'll even get Ted to say a few things, like commit himself here. We need you to commit yourself.
Thanks for joining us, America's Mayor Live.
Okay. Now we're going to see if this works. If it doesn't, we give up. Incorrect password, of course. This is not good when they do that to you. We'll get this figured out tonight. Maybe we'll tweet it out tomorrow, so that we can watch it over the weekend if it's any good. If it's not, we haven't missed anything. But I mean, this a lot of things have emerged from this terrible crash and explosion. And I think a lot more will as we get into the nitty-gritty of it and what happened. But one thing that has emerged, which is a very sad thing to say, but I feel as a patriot absolutely critical that I reiterated at the end of the week. We do not have a president that cares about the people of this country. And that is extraordinarily sad. He's a decrepit, depleted, dishonest, dishonorable little man who's lost whatever soul he ever had in the swamp of greed that he lived in for 30 to 40 years, and the pathology of lying. But to never go to see these people, to not care about them, to think you're better than them. My goodness, Joe, I know you for 35 years. I know them for 2 days. I know people. Wow, I'd rather spend my life with them. You're a disgrace. Please pray for America. We need it. We need to return to God. They took that away from us first, the communists did. Maybe that's the first thing we have to bring back, and the parents in the schools. They went after God in the schools. Oh man, like the Satans they are. We weren't watching. We're watching now. We're going to take them back from you. We got a long way, longer than a few other places, really. But we're going to take them back from you because we realize now what you realized a long time ago, how critical God and parents are. And to get us to fail in restoring both to the primacy of their position in America, you're going to have to kill us. You've tried to do everything else. So you better start thinking about killing us. Okay? God bless America. Pray for this country. If you do, we're going to prevail. Because there's no country on earth that God has blessed more than the United States of America. I don't care what you want to say about that. I don't care if you want to say that's myth. I don't care if you want to say that that's foolish or childish, or I don't really care what you want to say about it. Because if that's what you want to say about it, I feel bad for you. Because I believe you're not a very well-read, very analytical person, well schooled in the Greek and Roman arts of logic and analysis. There's no question when you examine all of this that all of it ultimately comes down in the development of the human personality and two things, God and parents. And if those two are primary in your society, in your life, not, I'm talking about government now. I'm talking about your life. Your life is private. It's not run by the government. What the hell are we? Communists? Life is run by you. Your life revolves around God and your family. Government emerges from that and gains its rights from God. And then all works because of that. This is what we have to get our people back to. When we were like that, we were just without doubt the strongest country in the history of the world. We were only that a while ago. We can be that again if we know what we're doing and where we're going. I think many people that watch this show and that watch rudyscs.com and wabcradio.com. So our next show, just to be precise, will be on Sunday, and it will be with Dr. Maria, who has been gathering a great deal of information about a subject she wants to talk about, and she'll be on Sunday. That'll be between 10 and 11 Eastern Time, wabcradio.com. You can get it anywhere. Just put it in anywhere. If you're in New Zealand, wabcradio.com. You can hear the two of us, and ask the kangaroos outside what they think. If there are kangaroos in New Zealand, I forget. I know they're in Australia. Number two, you can get us here between 9 and 10 every night. Here meaning Rudy'sCS.com or YouTube, right? Instagram.
That's right. Instagram, Facebook,
Twitter,
Getter, Twitch, Rumble.
Rumble in the jungle, Rumble.
We're all over the place.
We're all over the place at night. And then who knows who we have on then?
So, Mayor,
we had Millie on this week. We had that wonderful young lady whose house she's going to lose, who cried, that went her Twitter went viral. That was so beautiful. I mean, beautiful. It went viral for the right reasons, not because of some ridiculously exploitative piece of garbage.
So Mayor, the fastest hour on the internet is already up. What is your message going into the weekend after a very busy week, a number of days spent in East Palestine and surrounding area?
Reflect on reality of life. Get beyond the shallow things that pass real quick. Because going to East Palestine helped me. There's something about Middle America that got me a little more of the soul back. I'm more confident now we can get through this. These people told me how much I helped them. I got to tell you, they helped me more. Wow. I got that feeling now. We can do this. We can take this country and we can move it beyond where it was with my hero, President Reagan. He wants us to do that. He doesn't want us even to go back to where he was. Even Donald Trump, who I talked to, he doesn't want us to go back to where he wants to go beyond where he was. He'll take us there. You will, more importantly. God bless you. Have a great weekend. We've begun the Lenten season, so begin contemplating the sacrifice of the Son of God for you. God bless you. I love you. We both love America. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, try to get into the habit of saying, thank God I'm an American.